We charged the food and hospitality business around 793,000 pesos last year. And I want to tell you what that actually bought. Not because I want to expose client pricing, not because I want anyone comparing their business to another business, and definitely not because I think there is one correct way to price strategy, marketing, or growth work, but because pricing became one of my biggest business lessons last year. And now that most of our clients are up for renewal this June, I've been looking back at the containers we accepted, the work we delivered, and what those numbers actually taught me. And the lesson was not charge your worth. Honestly, I think that phrase is too vague. It sounds empowering, but when you are actually the one writing the proposal, managing the client, paying the team, buying the tools, absorbing the pressure, and trying to make sure the work actually performs, charge your worth does not really tell you what to do. The real lesson was this: pricing is a container. And if the container is too small, the result has nowhere to breathe. Hello, welcome to Pay to Know. I'm Ricka Raga, and in this episode, I want to talk about what we charged different industries last year, what those numbers taught me, and why we eventually made 55,000 pesos per month, or 660,000 pesos per year, the base pricing for our growth program. Before I get into the breakdown, I want to say this clearly. I'm not going to name the businesses. I'm not sharing this to judge anyone's budget, make anyone feel behind, or turn private client numbers into entertainment. I'm sharing this because I think more service providers need to hear the real conversation behind pricing. And I also think more business owners need to understand what they are actually buying when they hire someone to help them grow. Because from the outside, people think pricing is just a number. They ask, how much do you charge? But when you are the one delivering the work, that question becomes deeper. How much strategy can this price hold? How much execution can this price support? How much team capacity does this require? How much follow-up, back-end setup, reporting, content direction, search visibility, performance review, and emotional labor can realistically fit inside this container? That is the part people don't always see. Last year, I tried to make smaller budgets work. I really did. I tried to meet clients where they were. I tried to adjust the scope, stretch the strategy, simplify the deliverables, and make the system fit into what they could afford. And I don't regret that season because it taught me something important. It taught me that not every price point can hold the same level of execution. That was hard for me to accept because I don't like making people feel excluded. I understand what it feels like to be a business owner with ambition bigger than your current budget. I understand wanting the full strategy, the full system, the full transformation, but not having the full budget yet. So for a season, I kept trying to make it work. But eventually, I had to admit something. A smaller price does not make the same system more affordable. It makes the system smaller, and if the system is smaller, the expectation has to be smaller too. So let's talk about the first number. We had a food and hospitality account rated at around 793,000 pesos per year. This was not just a social media account. It involved ads, content, visibility, and growth infrastructure support. And this account taught me the difference between attention and infrastructure. In food and hospitality, people often think the win is getting more people to see the brand, more reach, more videos, more people saying, "Oh my God, I want to try that." More posts that make people hungry. And yes, attention matters. Discovery matters. Memory matters. But attention is only the first layer. The real question is, what happens after people notice you? Can they find you when they search? Can they trust you from what they see online? Can they understand what makes you different? Can they book, reserve, visit, inquire, or come back? Can the business turn discovery into actual movement? That is where growth infrastructure matters. Because content can make someone curious, but the system is what helps the business convert that curiosity into foot traffic, inquiries, reservations, repeat visits, and sales. So, when I look at that 793,000 pesos yearly container, I don't see it as almost 800,000 pesos for marketing. I see it as the cost of making a hospitality brand more findable, more trusted, and more supported across multiple channels. And do I think that price was fair? At the time, yes. But looking back, I also think it should have been structured more clearly as one growth program instead of being split into separate pieces like ads, social, and systems. Because when the work is split too much, clients sometimes see separate services. They think this is for ads, this is for content, this is for backend. But the real value is in the whole machine. The work performs better when the strategy, the content, the search visibility, the follow up, and the reporting are not treated like separate islands. That was one lesson. The second account was in the wellness and aesthetic space. This one was rated at around 744,000 pesos per year. And this account taught me that paid attention without backend infrastructure can become expensive leakage. This industry is very interesting because people assume beauty and wellness brands need prettier content. And yes, visuals matter. Of course they do. The brand has to feel premium. The content has to feel safe. The page has to build trust. No one is booking a treatment from a brand that feels careless online. But the deeper issue is usually not that the content is ugly. The deeper issue is that there is no system guiding a curious person into a booked consultation. Someone can see a treatment post, feel interested, check the page, watch a story, think about booking, get distracted, and disappear. And if there is no backend system, no automated follow-up, no educational content, no clear offer hierarchy, no reactivation, no trust-building sequence, that person becomes another lost lead. Not because the person was not interested, not because the campaign completely failed, but because the business did not have enough structure to hold the attention. That is why I always say paid ads without back-end systems is not always investment. Sometimes it is just making the leak more expensive. For this kind of business, the yearly price was not just for marketing activity. It was for building a conversion environment, a place where attention does not just land and disappear, a place where leads can be held, nurtured, educated, reminded, and guided. That is a very different kind of work from "can you make us content?" And that is also why pricing has to be different. The third account was in the printing and signage industry. This one was around 768,000 pesos per year for recurring strategy, search visibility, content, and growth infrastructure support. Plus a one-time website development fee that made the first year value closer to 869,000 pesos. And this one taught me something different. Not every business needs to be marketed the same way. Some brands need emotional storytelling. Some brands need demand capture. And printing and signage is more demand capture. When someone needs signage, installation, printing, or a quote, they are usually not scrolling casually thinking, "I wonder what sign company has the cutest Instagram." They are searching because they need something. So the job is different. Does the business show up when the buyer is looking? Does the website make it easy to inquire? Does the sales process help the team respond faster? Does the content build enough credibility that a decision maker feels safe choosing them? Does the brand look like a supplier, or does it look like the obvious choice? That account reminded me why I don't believe in one-size-fits-all marketing packages. Because different industries have different buyer behavior. A restaurant may need memory, craving, social proof, and local discovery. An aesthetics clinic may need trust, education, follow-up, and emotional safety. A signage company may need search visibility, quoting speed, authority, and demand capture. Same umbrella, growth infrastructure. Different machines underneath. And that is why price cannot just be based on tasks. It has to be based on what the outcome requires. Now here is where the emotional part comes in. For smaller accounts, lighter containers, back-end support, focused retainers, those matter too. Not every business is ready for the full growth program. Some businesses only need back-end support. Some need help organizing inquiries. Some need automated follow-up. Some need a basic system to stop losing leads in the inbox. Some need a focused support offer before they are ready for a full growth container. That is valid. But what became a problem for me was when I priced from guilt, when I priced from fear, when I priced from wanting to be chosen, when I priced from wanting to be liked, when I priced from wanting to prove that I could help everyone. That is where underpricing becomes dangerous. Because underpricing does not just affect your profit, it affects your strategy, it affects your energy, it affects your team, it affects the client experience, it affects the quality of the result, and eventually it affects your confidence. Because you start wondering why you are so tired, why the project feels heavier than the invoice, why the client keeps expecting more, why the team is stretched, why the work does not feel as clean as you wanted it to feel, why something that should have been exciting now feels like pressure sitting on your chest. But sometimes the problem is not the client. Sometimes the problem is that you priced the work for approval instead of pricing it for delivery. That was the lesson I had to learn. I had to stop asking only, can they afford this? And I had to start asking, can the result afford to be cheaper? Because sometimes the answer is no. If a business needs full growth infrastructure, pricing it too low does not make you kind. It makes the work fragile. It forces shortcuts. It creates unrealistic expectations. It puts pressure on the team. And eventually it makes the client wonder why the result is not as strong as the promise. I don't want that anymore. I don't want to sell a version of the work that is easier to say yes to, but harder to make successful. Because that is not fair to the client either. It may feel nice at the beginning because everyone is happy that the price got lower. But later, when the strategy needs more time, when the system needs more support, when the content needs more direction, when the lead handling needs more structure, that discount starts showing up somewhere. It shows up in the quality, it shows up in the timeline, it shows up in the pressure, it shows up in the result. And that is why we eventually made 55,000 pesos per month, our base pricing for the growth program. Annually, that starts at 660,000 pesos per year. That number feels more honest to me now, not because I woke up one day and decided, I want to be expensive. No, it is because after seeing last year's numbers, the delivery, the team load, the tools, the back end, and the actual work required to create results, I realized anything below that started compromising the quality of the system. At 55,000 pesos per month, we are not trying to squeeze a full strategy into a tiny container. We are not asking the team to perform miracles on a budget that only supports activity. We are creating enough margin for strategy, execution, growth infrastructure, tracking, content direction, follow-up, and performance review to exist together. Because that is what people are really paying for. They are not just paying for content. They are paying for clarity. They are paying for consistency. They are paying for infrastructure. They are paying for someone to look at the business and say, this is where the attention is leaking. This is where the offer is unclear. This is where the lead is getting lost. This is where the follow-up is too manual. This is where the business is relying too much on the founder. That is the value. And I think this is where the conversation around affordability in the Philippines needs to mature. Because sometimes when you price properly, people immediately think you are being expensive. But proper pricing is not always about luxury. Sometimes proper pricing is about responsibility. It is responsible to price in a way that allows the work to be done well. It is responsible to price in a way that allows the team to be paid. It is responsible to price in a way that gives the client the actual result instead of a watered-down version of it. And it is responsible to say, this is not the right container for what you are expecting. That sentence used to scare me. Now it gives me peace, because I would rather tell the truth at the proposal stage than apologize for a weak result later. So yes, the growth program now starts at 55,000 pesos per month. That is the floor for serious growth infrastructure work. Not because every business has to start there, but because if a business wants the full system, the pricing has to honor the full system. And with most of our clients renewing this June, that is the lens I am using now. Not just, are they renewing? But, is this still the right container for the work? Does the scope match the price? Does the price match the expectation? Does the expectation match the result we are being asked to create? Because renewal is not just about continuing. Renewal is a chance to correct the container. There can still be smaller support offers. There can still be lighter containers. There can still be back-end support for businesses that are not ready for the full growth program yet. But I am no longer going to confuse those offers with the main transformation. Because they are not the same. And the more honest I am about that, the better the work becomes. And if you're still here with me, this is the part I really want you to hear. What the numbers really taught me. I need you to really listen to this part. A 68,000 pesos per year back-end support account is not wrong. A 180,000 pesos per year growth infrastructure support account is not wrong. A 360,000 pesos per year focused retainer is not wrong. A 744,000 pesos or 793,000 pesos full growth container is not automatically better for every business. They are just different containers, and every container can only hold so much. That is the part I want service providers to understand. Your price is not just a number. Your price is the container that decides how well you can deliver. And if the container is too small, something will suffer. Your time will suffer, your team will suffer, your margin will suffer, your quality will suffer, your boundaries will suffer, and eventually your confidence will suffer too. So moving forward, I am not pricing from panic. I am not pricing from guilt. I am not pricing from wanting to be chosen. I am pricing from truth. And the truth is, full growth infrastructure costs more than content because it does more than content. It makes the business easier to find, easier to trust, easier to book, easier to follow up with, easier to manage, and easier to grow without the founder carrying every single part manually. That is the work, and that is what the growth program is built to do. That's it for today's episode of Paid to Know. This episode was about what we charged different industries last year, what those yearly containers taught me, and why I finally stopped treating pricing like a personality test and started treating it like a delivery decision. If this resonated with you, you can find me on Instagram at Ricka Raga. And if you want more of my unfiltered business thoughts, my book, Lessons from the People Who Paid Me and the Ones Who Didn't, is available at rickaraga.com and wherever books are sold. I'll see you in the next episode. I'm Ricka Raga, and this is Paid to Know.